Welcome to Crushed Husband. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. Sunday mornings had a rhythm to them. Quiet, slow, familiar. The kind of peaceful routine that makes you feel like maybe life is a little more figured out than it actually is. I was frying eggs while Madison scrolled on her phone at the table, sipping coffee with one leg tucked under her. She wore that oversized navy sweatshirt I loved, the one with the little bleach stain on the sleeve from a laundry accident years ago. It felt like home. My name is Tyler. I'm 34. I live in South Bend, Indiana. And until a few months ago, I really thought my life was simple and good. At least, good enough. "Did you remember we're heading to Shelby's for brunch?" I asked, flipping the eggs onto a plate. "Yeah, I know," she said without looking up. Her tone was clipped, flat. That was the first flicker. Not even a whole spark. Just something barely noticeable, like a song playing faintly out of tune in the background. "You okay?" "I'm fine." That was it. No smile, no follow-up. I brushed it off. Maybe she was tired. Maybe the coffee hadn't kicked in yet. Everyone's allowed to have an off morning. The drive to Shelby's was uneventful. Madison stared out the window most of the time, and when she did talk, it was short, functional replies. I told myself not to make a thing out of it. She'd snap out of it once we got there. Shelby was Madison's best friend since middle school. We'd been doing Sunday brunch at her place once a month for the last couple years. It was tradition. The three of us would drink too much coffee and complain about our jobs. Same old jokes, same favorite pancakes. Shelby answered the door with a big grin. "You made it. Tyler, could you do me a favor? I need your eyes on something out front." The door frame's doing that weird shift again. "Sure," I said, already heading outside. But when I got there, nothing looked off. I waited, staring at the wood like it might reveal something. Then the door creaked open behind me. Madison stepped out. Her eyes landed on me, and she froze like she'd been caught doing something. Her face twisted into surprise, then panic. She didn't say a word, just spun around and went back inside. The air felt different after that. Heavier, charged. I walked back in a few minutes later, like nothing happened. But inside, something was unsettled. I didn't understand what had just happened, but I knew, without question, that something had just shifted between us. Inside, everything looked the same as it always did. Shelby setting out a platter of bacon, coffee mugs scattered across the counter, that same playlist she always had going, some mix of indie folk and mid-2000s throwbacks. But I couldn't stop thinking about Madison's face, that quick, startled expression like she'd seen a ghost. Or worse, like she'd been caught doing something she wasn't supposed to. She was already back at the table, laughing at something Shelby said, acting like nothing had happened. It wasn't forced, not exactly, but it was too smooth, like someone reading from a script they'd memorized a little too well. I watched her from across the room, the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, the way she leaned just a little too hard into the conversation. "Hey babe," I said casually, sliding into the seat beside her. "Ran into you outside. What was that about?" She blinked, and for half a second, I saw it again. Hesitation. "Oh, I thought Shelby was calling me too," she said quickly. Guess I misheard. That was it. Clean, polished, no room for follow-up. "Oh," I said, nodding slowly. "Okay." But it didn't sit right, because I'd seen her face when she stepped out. She hadn't looked confused. She'd looked guilty. Shelby didn't say anything, just kept talking like normal. If she noticed the weird energy, she didn't let on. We stayed for another hour. I picked at my food. Madison laughed too loud. Shelby poured more coffee. And the whole time, I kept hearing that door creak, seeing that flash of panic. When we got back in the car, I waited a few minutes before bringing it up again. I didn't want to come off suspicious, but I had to know. "So you thought Shelby called you out too?" I said casually, eyes on the road. "Yeah," she said without missing a beat. She sounded weird. I figured she needed help with something. She didn't say anything when I got out there. Well, maybe she just forgot what she needed. Her tone was calm, too calm, like she'd practiced. I didn't say anything after that, just nodded and kept driving, but I could feel it, that old familiar tug in my chest, the one that shows up when someone lies and you know it. Even if you don't have proof, you feel it. You always feel it. Back home, Madison went straight to her laptop, said she had to catch up on some emails. I sat on the couch, staring at the muted TV, watching her out of the corner of my eye. Everything felt a little off, just enough to notice, just enough to wonder. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. but I knew her tells. And that little lie she just told, it wasn't her first. The strange thing about suspicion is how quiet it is at first. It doesn't knock down the door. It slips in through the cracks, one small inconsistency, one glance that lasts too long or not long enough, and then suddenly everything feels different. By the following weekend, I had stopped pretending. Madison was still Madison on the surface. She kissed my cheek in the mornings. She laughed at the right times during reruns of our favorite shows. She sent me grocery lists and reminders and little "don't forget to eat" texts. But the space between us was getting louder. I started noticing her phone habits. She had always been a bit attached to it. Nothing unusual about that, but now it was like a shield. She kept it face down at all times. Whenever it buzzed, she'd glance around the room before picking it up and walking away. Into the hallway, the kitchen, sometimes even the bathroom. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe I was just being sensitive after the brunch weirdness. But then there were the late work nights. "I have to stay and finish up these reports," she said on a Wednesday, already half out the door with her laptop bag. "That's the third night this week," I said, trying not to sound like I was keeping score. "I know," she replied, not even looking at me. "It's quarter end. It's a mess right now." She used to text when she stayed late. Now I had to ask. And even then, her responses were vague, short. Back in April, we used to sit in bed together with our laptops, share takeout, watch dumb videos. But now she came home, gave me a tired kiss, and disappeared into the bathroom with her phone in hand. One night I asked, "How's Shelby doing?" Madison shrugged, eyes glued to her screen. "She's fine. Why?" "Just wondering. We haven't seen her much since brunch." She didn't look up. "She's been busy." "I don't know." I stared at her, waiting for her to meet my eyes. She didn't. And then, the little things. She stopped wearing her wedding ring. I noticed it one morning when she was pouring coffee, her hand bare, pale where the band used to sit. She caught me looking and gave a weak smile. "It's at the jeweler's," she said. "One of the diamonds was loose." That was a month ago. Still no ring. Then there was the Instagram account. Madison had always been private online. Just one account, barely posted. But when I accidentally tapped on her profile while searching something else, I saw she was tagged in a post I didn't recognize. Different username, private account. I clicked. It was hers. Same face, different vibe, different circle. I'd never seen any of those pictures. No mention of me, no wedding photos. Just curated snapshots of yoga classes, dinner parties, and new faces. Including one I didn't recognize, some guy named Max who seemed to pop up a lot. I didn't confront her, not yet. But I lay awake most nights, staring at the ceiling, feeling her breathing beside me, wondering if she'd ever truly been beside me at all. Because I knew something was happening. I just didn't know what, not yet. I caught her smiling at her phone one evening, one of those low, breathy laughs she used to reserve for the early days of us, back when a text from me could light up her whole face. But this one was different. It didn't feel warm. It felt distant, like she was somewhere else entirely. "What's funny?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Her smile vanished like I'd flipped a switch. "Huh?" "Oh, nothing. Just some dumb meme Shelby sent." She tilted the screen away slightly. I pretended not to notice. The thing was, I hadn't seen Shelby in weeks. Madison rarely mentioned her anymore, and when she did, it was always vague, just like everything else lately. Later that week, I asked about yoga. That was her new thing these days. Hot yoga 3 times a week, always conveniently after work, always with her phone turned off. "You still doing that Thursday class?" "Yep," she said, without looking up from her cereal. "Why?" "Just wondering. Haven't seen you use the mat lately." She didn't flinch, just kept eating. "They provide mats at the studio." That was new. She used to complain about how gross the shared ones were, swore she'd never use them. I didn't push it. What was the point? I started noticing more cracks after that. She barely touched her dinner anymore, stared at her phone during our movie nights, stopped asking about my day. Sometimes she'd come home humming under her breath, like she was happy, but not the kind of happy that came from our life together. It felt like I was watching a stranger get comfortable in my house. One night, I was folding laundry and heard her phone buzz on the nightstand. She was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't. But the preview lit up clear as day. Max, that's the hotel I told you about. Quiet, no one asks questions. I stood there frozen. That name again, Maximum. She had never mentioned him to me, never once. I didn't touch the phone, I didn't go digging. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed. When she came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, I couldn't look at her the same way. She climbed into bed like nothing happened, rolled to her side and said, "You okay?" "You're quiet." "I'm good," I lied. I wasn't. I couldn't sleep. I waited until her breathing evened out, soft and steady beside me. Then I slipped out of bed, walked down to the kitchen, and opened the drawer where we kept random receipts and mail. And there it was, folded inside a bank envelope. 2 nights at a boutique hotel downtown. Her name on the reservation, her card on the charge. Just 2 weeks ago. No girls' trip, no yoga retreat, just Madison, in a hotel room I hadn't known about. I didn't confront her, not yet. I wasn't ready to hear the lie. I just wanted to hold on to the last few threads of doubt a little longer. But I couldn't stop thinking about that hotel, that text, that laugh. And Max, always Max. It happened on a Thursday. I came home early from work, something I never did. My boss had canceled our afternoon meeting, and instead of heading to the gym or running errands, I drove straight home. I don't know why. I didn't plan it. I just felt this tightness in my chest, like something was waiting for me. The house was too quiet when I stepped inside. Not the usual hum of the dishwasher or the soft clatter of Madison's typing. Just silence. Then, laughter. A low, soft laugh coming from the kitchen. Not a TV, not a podcast. Real, living, human laughter. I froze. I stood in the entryway, still holding my keys, my heart thudding so hard I thought I might throw up. The laugh wasn't hers. It was deeper, male. I crept toward the sound. The kitchen lights were on. Madison stood near the counter with a man I had never seen in person, but I knew exactly who he was. Maximum. I recognized him from her hidden Instagram account, the one I wasn't supposed to know about. He was leaning on the edge of the counter, a half-full coffee mug in his hand, like he belonged there. She was barefoot, smiling, tucking her hair behind her ear, like she used to do with me when she was nervous. Or excited, or both. She didn't see me at first. Neither of them did. She reached up and gently touched his arm. "You really think she believed the yoga thing?" Max grinned. "I think she believes whatever you say. You're good at that." That's when I moved. Not a crash or a dramatic shout. Just one step. A floorboard creaked. They both turned. Madison's face went pale. Max blinked, confused. Then Madison took a step back from him, like it might undo what I'd just seen. I didn't say anything, didn't yell, didn't ask questions. I just looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I think she really looked back. "Tyler," she started, but I walked past her. Quiet, calm, cold. I grabbed my phone from the charger on the table. Then I turned slowly and raised it. Click. One photo. That's all I needed. Madison. Maximum. Together in our kitchen. Her eyes widened. "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't answer. I slipped the phone into my pocket and walked out the front door. I didn't slam it. I didn't look back. I sat in my car with the engine running, gripping the steering wheel with both hands like it was the only thing holding me together. My mind raced. They had been here, in our house, in the kitchen where we made pancakes, where we danced barefoot on Saturday mornings. The betrayal didn't feel sharp. It felt hollow. Number. Like someone had carved something out of me and left the space empty. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared out the windshield as the sky darkened. I didn't want to confront her. Not yet. I wasn't ready to hear the excuses, the gaslighting, the "it's not what you think." I knew what I saw. I knew what I felt. And now I had proof. Later that night, she texted, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply, because for the first time in our relationship, I finally had control of the story. And I wasn't ready to let her twist it. Not this time. After that Thursday, everything changed. I didn't tell Madison I was staying late at work anymore. I just did. I didn't text to ask if she wanted dinner. I didn't make small talk when we crossed paths in the hallway. I didn't say goodnight. She noticed, of course, but she didn't ask. And that silence, it gave me room to breathe, to think, to plan. The first thing I did was redirect my paycheck. We had a joint checking account, but I opened a new one that weekend. Different bank, different login, no paper trail. Within minutes, I had changed my direct deposit and quietly moved over the remaining balance from our shared account. I left just enough to avoid suspicion, I also started making copies. Phone bills, credit card statements, her calendar app. Uber receipts, screenshots of texts, anything I could access without crossing a line I couldn't legally defend. I don't even know when I cracked her iCloud. One night, while she was asleep next to me, I remembered the old password she used to use for everything. I tried it. It worked. Her photos synced automatically to the cloud. So did her text backups. I didn't have to dig. The evidence found me. Max wasn't just a name anymore. He was a recurring character in her life. Lunch dates, private messages, emojis I didn't recognize anymore. They had a shared Google Calendar labeled Quiet Time. Hotel bookings were there. Ubers to unfamiliar addresses. She even had a saved album titled Photos to Hide. I opened it. Selfies of her in the same yoga clothes she left the house in. But inside unfamiliar apartments. Candids of Max's hand on her leg in a car. One picture of them on a bed. Heads close. Faces flushed. Nothing graphic, just intimate. Too intimate. I sat at my desk for hours that weekend, creating a folder of everything I found, organized by date, labeled clearly, screenshots printed, emailed to myself, saved to a USB drive I tucked into a manila envelope in my sock drawer. I wasn't trying to ruin her. I wasn't even sure what I wanted yet. But I knew this. If she ever tried to twist the story, I'd be ready. On Monday, I called a lawyer, a quiet office on the north side, referred by a guy I played softball with once. No flashy website. No receptionist named Tiffany. Just a man in a flannel shirt who asked the right questions and didn't flinch when I laid it all out. "You're doing the right thing," he said, after flipping through the first few pages of my folder. "I'm not ready to file yet," I said. "You don't have to be," he told me, "but when you are, you'll be ready." That night, Madison was already in bed when I got home. She didn't say anything when I slipped under the covers, didn't turn toward me, just stared at her phone until she finally set it down and rolled away. I looked at the back of her head and felt nothing. No hate, no sadness, just a clean, cold space where love used to live. I had done my part. I gave her years, a home, trust. And now I was giving myself something I hadn't had in a long time. Power, not to hurt her, just to stop letting her hurt me. The final act was coming. I could feel it. And this time, I'd be writing the ending. It was a Thursday afternoon, about 2 weeks after I'd started collecting evidence. I was in the middle of replacing a printer cartridge at work when my phone buzzed with an incoming call. Shelby. We hadn't talked since the brunch. Not directly. Just a couple of polite group texts and a birthday emoji reaction. Seeing her name lit something up in my chest. I wiped my hands and stepped outside to answer. "Hey," I said. "Tyler," she said quickly, almost breathless. "Do you have a second? I need to tell you something. It's about Madison." I walked around the back of the building, heart already speeding up. "Yeah, I'm listening." There was a pause. I could hear her pacing. "I feel like I should have told you sooner, and I'm sorry I didn't. But I knew something was off that day, at brunch. I didn't say anything. I just waited." "That thing with the door?" she said, "asking you to look at the frame?" "Yeah." "I lied," she admitted. "There was nothing wrong with it. I made it up." I let the silence stretch, let her say what she had to say. "I did it to get you out of the house," she went on, "because I had a feeling Madison was meeting someone. I didn't know who, but She paused, struggling. She'd been talking about someone named Max for months, way before brunch. Said it was just someone from her yoga class, but the way she talked about him, I just knew. She took a breath. "And that day, I saw her texting him before you guys arrived. That's why I pulled you outside. I thought maybe I could catch them in the act." My jaw tightened. "So you knew?" "I suspected," she said quickly, "but I didn't know for sure. I didn't want to believe she'd actually go through with it. Not like that. Not in my house." I leaned against the wall, feeling a strange mix of emotions, relief, betrayal, even a flicker of gratitude. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I should have told you then," she said. "I saw your face when she came outside and panicked. I've been sitting with that image for weeks. I was waiting for you to ask me, but you never did." I rubbed the back of my neck, unsure what to say. "She's not who you think she is anymore, Tyler. I don't know what changed in her, but I've seen the way she looks at you. Like you're a weight, not a person." There it was, the thing I'd been feeling for months, said out loud by someone else. "I want you to know," she added, "that I've got your back. If this turns into something bigger, If it gets messy, you're not alone in this. I swallowed hard. Thanks, Shelby. No problem. And for what it's worth, she said. You deserve better than whatever version of Madison this is. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm starting to believe that. The call ended. I didn't move for a while. Shelby's confirmation didn't shock me. But hearing it from someone else, someone close to Madison, it made everything real, solid. There was no more room for doubt, no more benefit of the doubt. This wasn't just in my head. Madison had made her choice, and soon, I'd be making mine. Madison came home late that Friday night. I was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a beer I didn't even really want, watching condensation pool around the base of the bottle. The lights were dim, no music, no TV, just quiet. The front door clicked open. Hey, she called out, too cheerful. Her heels clacked across the hardwood. Sorry I'm late. Shelby wanted to grab a drink after yoga. Yoga again. I didn't answer. I just watched her move through the house like she still owned it, like she hadn't burned it down one quiet betrayal at a time. She dropped her keys into the dish by the door, kicked off her shoes, and wandered into the kitchen. You okay? She asked, her tone light, trying to read me. I looked up, met her eyes, and for once I didn't scramble for the right words. I didn't try to smooth over the moment, to pretend we were still some version of normal. I'm good, I said flatly. She raised an eyebrow. You sure? I'm sure. She hesitated, like she could feel something shifting under her feet. But she didn't dig deeper. She never did. Instead, she walked over to the fridge and pulled out a bottle of white wine, poured herself a glass without asking if I wanted any. Like we were roommates, like strangers. She leaned against the counter and took a sip. Work's been nuts. This client keeps asking for the dumbest revisions. Shelby thinks I should just... I wasn't listening. Not really. I just watched her mouth move, watched her hands gesture lazily as she filled the silence with filler. And that's when it hit me. This was who she was now. Not the girl who used to fall asleep with her head in my lap while we watched documentaries. Not the woman who once cried in my arms over a broken friendship or a bad review at work. Not the person who whispered, I'm so lucky I married you in the dark after long days. That version of her was gone. And in her place was someone who could lie straight to my face, who could disappear into other people's beds and come back pretending nothing had changed. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't notice that I hadn't eaten dinner. She didn't even see the envelope on the table beside my beer, thick with printed pages, a single USB drive labeled in Sharpie, TRUTH. When she finished her wine, she yawned, said, I'm exhausted, and kissed my forehead like she was patting down a dog. Then she went upstairs to bed. I stayed at the table a while longer, watching the shadows stretch across the room, listening to the hum of the fridge, and I knew there was no fixing this. Not with a fight, not with therapy, not with some desperate, we can make it work talk. She was already gone, emotionally, spiritually, maybe even morally. She had left months ago. She just forgot to take her things with her. That night, I stood at the bedroom doorway and looked at her sleeping. Her breathing was soft even. I didn't feel anger or heartbreak. I felt clear. And tomorrow, that clarity was going to become action. I waited until Sunday morning. It was quiet, cloudy, the kind of day where everything feels muted, like the world itself is holding its breath. Madison was still in bed, curled under the comforter, one leg poking out like always. The dog, her dog really, was curled at her feet. I had the folder in my hands, not the original, just a neat labeled copy. She stirred when I walked in. What time is it? She mumbled, her voice scratchy. Almost 9. She rolled over slowly and squinted at me. Why are you dressed? I was wearing jeans and a button-down, not dressed up, just ready. We need to talk, I said. Her eyes sharpened instantly. That old tension crept into her shoulders like she'd been here before, like some part of her had been expecting this. Now? She asked. I nodded and handed her the folder. She sat up against the headboard and took it, flipping it open lazily at first, then faster. The first page was a screenshot of a message from Max. The second, a printout of the hotel receipt with her name on it, time-stamped and dated. Then the Instagram photos, text logs, Uber history, one after the other. By the 5th page, she wasn't turning anymore. Her eyes stayed fixed, her lips pressed together. How long have you had this? She asked finally. Couple weeks. She looked up. And you've just been watching me? I kept my arms crossed. I've been protecting myself. Her jaw tightened. This is insane. You're digging through my personal stuff? What, you hacked into my phone? I used your old password, I said calmly. The one you never changed. That's not, she started, then stopped herself. This is crazy. I'm acting like a husband who's been lied to, I snapped, the first crack in my voice. Cheated on, disrespected. In his own damn house, she scoffed. It was just texts. You don't know what... Don't, I said. Don't insult me by lying now. She stood up suddenly, folder in hand. You don't know what it's like being in this relationship. You check out emotionally. You go quiet. You act like a ghost. I was grieving the version of you I married, I said, my voice low. While you were sneaking around behind my back. She crossed her arms, folder pressed to her chest. So what now? You're gonna tell everyone? You want to humiliate me? I want the truth out. No more pretending. No more hiding. She laughed bitterly. And what about you, huh? You think this makes you some kind of hero? You've been sitting on this evidence like a movie villain waiting for your big scene. I waited because I wanted to be sure, I said. And now I am. Silence. She sat down on the edge of the bed, breathing heavy. Her face wasn't angry anymore. It was something else, exhausted, cornered. I guess this is the end then, she said quietly. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, the woman I used to trust more than anyone in the world. And now, I didn't recognize her at all. I'll have the papers drawn up, I said. She nodded slowly. So that's it? No, I said. That's the beginning. I picked up the folder and left the room. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say another word. When I stepped outside, the air felt lighter, colder, honest. For the first time in months, I didn't feel confused. I felt free.